Our emotions are like energy waves, varying in shape and intensity just like the ocean waves. They arise and pass away pretty quickly like all natural phenomenon. If one attempts to interrupt this process through acting out or suppression, you will most likely create undesirable consequences in many aspects of your life, especially your relationships. Through acting out with strong emotions like anger or jealousy, you will most likely destroy relationships that you have around you, or limit yourself from creating new ones. This is because the ripple effect of acting out usually provokes even more anger from those around you, which can add or create unnecessary difficulties in your life. However, the consequences of suppressing bigger emotions, such as grief, can be even more disastrous. This is because the emotions you are trying to avoid will never actually go away as you are still holding on to them, most of the time subconsciously. Once emotional suppression gets into your body, it creates a downstream of effects that range from anxiety, depression, all the way to substance abuse and even suicide. What many people don't realize is that there's another way to regulate these emotions, and that is feeling them in real time, which is exactly what Song of the Sea's message is. This film is an animation written by Will Collins and Tomm and is directed by the latter. It was made by the Irish studio Cartoon Saloon, based in Kilkenny, Ireland, and was released in 2014. The story and characters are inspired and derived from Irish mythology and focuses on themes such as emotions and family. The film is a Celtic mytho-amplification of the dangers of emotional repression, more specifically, grief's manifestations and ramifications on a family unit. But at its simplest, this film centers around a brother and his sulky sister who have to work together to get back home to avoid catastrophe. The theme of emotional repression is laced throughout the film through its characters. There is the father who is trapped in his own grief and is still mourning the tragic loss of his wife. Then there is Saoirse, his daughter who has the inability to speak and therefore has her communication repressed. And lastly, there is Ben, who is Saoirse's brother who resents her as he blames her for his mother's death. Through looking at the various characters individually, we can see how the disappearance of Connor's wife, whose name is Brona, has impacted the family dynamic significantly. Connor, Saoirse, and Ben's father is a lighthouse keeper and appears to be battling depression following her disappearance. Over the years, he has become increasingly bitter, hoping nothing from life, and the only thing that brings him joy is Saoirse, as she is a reminder of his wife and consequently absolutely dotes on her, as he is consumed by his memories. This leads him to ignoring Ben, and they are unable to create a relationship as father and son. Ben is also undoubtedly affected because of his mother's disappearance, and is left with the feelings of both anger and confusion, which he tries to suppress, only for it to come out as him acting out. He takes out his anger through bullying his sister, as he believes she is the reason his mother left them, and therefore despises her. The fact that his father dotes over her makes him even more angry, as he cannot seem to understand why. However, he's the only character in the film who wants to break free and get out of his repression, as he wants his emotions to be heard. In this film, his journey is about truly becoming a brother, in motive and in spirit. Despite being adored by her father, Saoirse also faces the consequences of emotional repression from him. Because Saoirse is a Selkie, which is a seal who can take human form just like her mother, she is the most obvious reminder of her mother to her father. Due to the painful memories he wants to try to suppress, he locks Saoirse's coat up, which she needs to transform into her seal form, and thus taking away her ability to communicate as well. Thus, her journey in the film is about external loss and acquisition. Now, although the events in the film are extremely important and relevant to the message, the film depicts the main theme through various symbolisms too, the main one being the sea. The symbolism of the sea can be understood as a representation of death, or the knowledge of death. It is where Brona came from and where she must return. This symbolism of the sea and death is laced throughout the film and affects all the characters. Connor is always in the lighthouse and the sea surrounds him, depicting how consumed he is with the death of his wife. Ben is scared of the sea and refuses to get in it as he believes he will drown. He even wears a life preserver throughout the entire movie, which is a sign of constant protection from the sea. Then there is Saoirse, the character who ties it all together. Due to her fascination and curiosity to the sea, she consistently forces all the other characters to face the reality of death. From the analysis of the characters, it is evident that the family's inability to cope with grief is what instigates the issue that drives this story. Through the father locking Saoirse's coat away, he locks away his emotions and denies her of her own mother, which consequently represses her from communicating and finding her place. Through Ben's repression of reminders of his mother, he becomes mean and his anger clouds his grieving process. However, as everything unfolds and all of them are faced with the reality of mortality, Ben matures, the father finds closure, and thus everyone is freed from the sorrow. This occurs through embracing the memory instead of obliterating it. Our emotions are our humanity. When we repress them, we are trapped within ourselves, trapped in a fairyland that is foreign to us. Song of the Sea simply wants us to embrace what it is to be human. Despite being nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Feature Film in 2015, alongside The Tale of Princess Kaguya and The Box Trolls, this film is not as well known as it deserves to be. The film tackles some very complex and heavy themes, such as a loss and grief, but because it is a truly narrative-driven and delicate film, it could potentially be a hit for all ages. In a time where computer graphics in films have become the norm, it is refreshing to see a whole feature-length animated film that is drawn completely by hand. Visually speaking, Song of the Sea is truly a unique and delicate masterpiece. The style is somewhat familiar, as they resemble the super flat human characters in cartoons such as Samurai Jack and the classic Powerpuff Girls. However, the combination of how the characters are drawn with the watercolor texture and color swatches, this visual style has created an epic realm of wonder and fantasy that undeniably has its own unique charm. Despite using only two-dimensional and hand-drawn animation, Song of the Sea delivers every scene with flourishing imagination, and every shot could be hung up as a painting. Apart from the rich visual design of the film, the musical score should also be given praise. The soundtrack of the film includes Gaelic lyrics and rarely heard instruments that further enhance the magical elements of the film. Although this film may not be an extremely accurate depiction of the folklore of Selkies, it does a damn good job at depicting the themes surrounding that lore. As Todd Brown says in his review, Song of the Sea is not about selling units. It's about story and heart and emotion and wonder and craftsmanship, and because of that, it becomes timeless. A beautiful piece of art that will delight audiences old and young. And that Moore is a master storyteller, and we can only hope he has many, many more stories to tell.